right, here we go. Second trade.
Well, hold on. Greg, which way is the switch is supposed to go on this mic? That's how it came. I don't know what to do. Anyway, okay, that's a little video nugget for Greg. Are you still recording everything?
It seems to be.
Okay.
Wake up, everybody. Today is May 26th, and we are Never Free to Play, a podcast where we talk about all the video games we wish we were playing. I'm one of your hosts, Karch Palaski, joined by my co-host, Jason Wright. If you decide you like us, our voices, and our faces, you can find us at neverfreetoplay.com, patreon.com/neverfreetoplay, or on all the other social media where we are Never Free to Play. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, feedback, please send it to us at neverfreetoplay@gmail.com. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I have a new social media strategy for us that I'm excited to talk about right now.
Hit me with it.
I think what we need to do is we need to become part of a Twitter beef, but I haven't figured out how to do that.
Well, you know, the easiest way to get a beef going is to piss somebody off.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who should be our target?
Somebody we like. You know, we should really hone in on an influencer or personality that we're really fond of, so we can just really burn that bridge.
Right. Get under their skin.
Yeah.
As it were.
But it also has to be somebody who takes offense very easily. And now I'm going to be very careful about saying any names whatsoever.
Right, yeah. So we have nobody in mind because, you know.
Let's start it with Josh or Sean.
That's a good idea. A little Twitter beef. It's like a practice Twitter beef.
Yep. Even though well, Josh is on Twitter. Sean's not on Twitter.
Well, I guess then we'll start one with Josh.
Yeah.
What else what have you been into this past week, my friend?
Well, today we had a very special birthday. Juliet turned 7.
Ooh.
And we did a little drive-through thing where her friends and our family came by. Our family came by and they sat in the yard with us. But her friends would come by in their cars and just honk, and they had signs, and it was cute. And we passed out like those little ice pops in the tubes that you'd slide up.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, they're so good. And then, you know, a couple of people brought gifts, even though gifts wasn't a thing, so that was always appreciated. But it was super hot because we're in Florida, and it was probably the hottest day of the summer so far. Even though
really?
Hasn't.
How hot was it?
Ugh. It was one of those like, oh, it's 84, but it feels like 91.
Yeah.
From like 1 to 7.
Those are the worst.
We weren't out there that long, but might as well have been.
Sure.
Been watching that Ozark still. Got through the first season. That was a pretty good season ending. Started the second season. And,
have you started that second season yet?
Yeah, we're about halfway through.
Okay. What do you think so far?
I like the first one a lot better. It took me a while to figure out what they were doing with Marty in the second season. Not that it hasn't been enjoyable, but it's just a little like, what is wrong with this character? And he's just going into like he's locking down because everything's falling apart around him. But I'm enjoying it still. And
I want to see, and that's the thing with that second season, that I don't necessarily think it makes it bad because I do think it was very intentional, but it did seem like I so badly wanted Marty to like, and I'm not going into spoiler territory here, but like I so badly just wanted that, just like the retribution, just like the impact moment. Like, and I just wanted it so badly.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know. You're right. He kind of like goes into himself and locks down.
Yeah. And plus, and as a part of that, the show shifts away from him. And so, and again, not that Laura Linney or any of the other side characters are uninteresting. It's just weird when the main character kind of like just disappears from the show in a meaningful way.
Right.
So, but we'll see.
I noticed that a little bit in the third season too, that they don't focus on him as much.
He's got that producer credit, Jason Bateman. He's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'll show up on my paycheck and I'm done.
I don't know if this is true, but I heard that, cause isn't Jason Bateman a co-creator of the show?
He is. He's got his name's all over it.
So I think if I'm not mistaken, he agreed to do the Netflix seasons of Arrested Development to get funding for this project.
That's cool.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard.
Sounds like a thing that happens.
You know what? I mean, Ozark's a pretty good show, but you know what's a great show?
I have
It's called...
I have a feeling you're about to lie to me.
No, I'm not. It's called Married at First Sight.
Yep, you lied to me.
And the only thing you need to know about this show is that it's essentially what every reality TV show is these days, which is like it's a sociological experiment that they're filming. And the person conducting this sociological experiment is literally named Dr. Pepper Schwartz.
That's a fake name.
It sounds like a fake name, and she says it all the time, like, because Pepper is her first name.
Pepper Potts.
And she yeah, exactly. And she keeps introducing herself as like Dr. Pepper Schwartz. Like, it's got a really weird, awkward pause. And then also there is like I don't know if you'd call them contestants or cast member. I'm not sure. But her name is Maitland.
That's
like,
a weird name.
Caitlin with an M.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not usually one to make fun of names, but we talk a lot about how your name was made up. But this one's like they're like, we want something like Caitlin, but let's just draw a random letter out of a Scrabble bag, and whatever it is, that's what it's going to be.
Scrabble bag. That's right. They did. Yeah. The letters do come in bags, don't they? Like a little velvet thing.
Yeah, kind of like a Crown Royal bag.
Exactly.
Anyway, all right. Well, I mean, we can be done talking about all that, not video game stuff.
Such a drunk. All right, little housekeeping. Please follow us on Twitter.
What are you waiting for?
Do it.
We've been saying it every week.
And subscribe on YouTube.
Starting to get a little offended.
We are.
My camera's starting to shake. That's how offended I am. I gotta find a better camera holding solution than this thing. Anyway.
Just get Luke to hold it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Just stand there.
Toddler cam.
Yeah. All right, we got a shout out from Jason. So go ahead, Jason.
Okay, so as many of you know, my birthday is tomorrow, and I've talked on the show in the past about how disappointing a lot of the birthday promos are. Specifically, Nintendo's and Starbucks are very weak. I would definitely rank them bottom tier. So this shout out goes to Moe's Southwest. They emailed me yesterday and they gave me a free birthday burrito, and that doesn't expire for 90 days. So take notes, Nintendo and Starbucks.
Free breakfast burrito. Except it's Moe's, and I would not eat the breakfast burrito. So, not breakfast, birthday burrito. Excuse me.
Why?
Because I don't like Moe's.
Get out of here.
I'm a Tijuana Flats guy.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh my gosh. You get out of here to Florida and wherever else they are, because I don't know where else they are, but they're everywhere in Florida, because I think they started over at like the other side near the Orlando area. There's that one college I can't remember the name of.
Everybody has a regional Tex-Mex place that they say makes the best burritos. It is all the same garbage in a bowl.
It's not the same, or it's not the best by any stretch. It is better than Moe's, though.
They're all the same. Chipotle, Moe's, Qdoba. They're all the same.
All right. Well, we'll let the listeners decide.
And, okay, another shout out. Maybe this is what our Twitter beef is about, the Moe's versus Tijuana Flats. But one more shout out to Kane. Hey, what's up? We know that you listen to the show. Sorry that I said last time. So we were going into spoilers for Final Fantasy VII, and I said, we probably just lost the only two people who listen to this show. Today I got a text from Kane that he told me for the second time in our show's short life, he's now done listening.
Man, that's a record.
So this is a shout out for when he picks back up.
Awesome. All right. Well, we've got a few corrections, just a couple this time.
Oh, yeah, you want me to do it?
You usually do it, yeah.
Do I have to read them all? It looks like you have one on here.
I have one, but you can...
I don't know what the first one is. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Greg, start corrections music now.
All right, I'll take over. Thank you, Greg. So Jason said Maku a few times during his recap of his Final Fantasy VII playthrough.
Who cares?
I do, because it was hilarious. Not because you got it wrong, because it was funny to me. It's
what
Mako.
Is it supposed to be?
Mako. You said it correctly every single time since then. And before that, it was just funny. All of a sudden, you started saying Maku. That was what was really funny about it, because you got it right in the past. And And I didn't say anything during, because I wasn't going to like interrupt your flow. I wanted to hear you talk about the game, but you must have said it like 3 or 4 different times, and so I thought it was really funny.
Maku. What is it? Is it Mako?
Mako. M-A-K-O.
Okay.
I used to say it for what it's worth until I heard it spoken verbally by someone who like worked for, Square Enix. I said Mako, like for like the first 10, 12 years of my life after playing it for the first time.
I think I'm just going to call it that.
Mako?
Yeah.
Maku?
Like Mako, Texas.
Mako, Texas. Waco, Texas. Anyway, next correction is, so I wouldn't normally do this, but I got tricked. And I promised Josh that I would before I actually read his correction. But last week, Josh said this is a correction specifically for Jason. Last week, everything we said during corrections wasn't actually a correction. So the segment name is incorrect. Thank you, you stickler. This is the last one you get.
Josh is lucky that this isn't an explicit podcast. That's all I'm going to say.
He is. Greg, please end corrections. All right, we've got some news items. We don't have a lot of news items. We're not going to talk about them a lot, which is what we say every week. But I really mean it this time. I'm not talking about the news for a while.
No.
So first up, we have G2A paying Factorio developer $39,600 over illegally obtained game keys. Something they said that wasn't happening way back.
So this one was an interesting one to me because a lot of developers, especially like smaller devs, were calling out these gray market sites, and I think G2A is probably like, if not, it's one of the most, if not the most popular gray market site. And so for anyone who doesn't know what a gray market site is, basically it's one where some of the stuff sold on there is probably legit, but some of it could have been obtained illegally, and you don't really know what's what. And they're allowing people they kind of are like an eBay or an Amazon, and they just allow sellers to come sell keys on their site, and they're deeply discounted. But that's why they call it kind of gray market, because it's not like these are stolen or anything like right from the developer or anything like that, but some of it's a little bit fishy the way that they obtain the keys. And so at any rate,
what happens is people will steal a credit card, buy a bunch of keys, and then sell those keys at a really cheap rate on these sites as a way to kind of like launder that stolen credit card money. And then that's where the kind of gray area comes in, because you can't just up and steal, like you said, a key from a dev. That's just not happening. Right.
And so then what will happen is, those people will realize that their credit cards were stolen, and they'll issue a chargeback or whatever. So then the developers end up losing money because the keys that were bought with the stolen cards, they have to give that money back.
And that makes them look bad.
Yeah. So G2A was trying to clear their name, and basically they started this program where they said, if any developer wants to work with an independent auditor and come in here and review our books, we will pay you 10 times the cost of any keys you can prove were stolen fraudulently. And so I don't know how to pronounce this developer's name. Woob? Wooby?
Maybe.
So they're the people who developed Factorio. They are literally the only dev that signed up for this program. And they found, like, I guess, $396 worth of, would that be? Or maybe $3,900. So we've already established this is not a math podcast, but at any rate, G2A is making good on their word, and they're paying them almost $40,000 for stolen keys. So I do wonder now what's the damage control? Will G2A stop this program? Because surely this will trigger other smaller devs to be like, oh, I guess there is a way to prove it, and we'll go get our money back too.
Yeah, it's interesting because they could easily take back this offer, because obviously they offered it up willingly, but they've already set a precedent that could create a legal obligation for them to have to do that. I'm looking at the price here for Factorio, because I was wondering, okay, we know the amount. It's 10 times 3,000 something dollars, but how many games was that? And because it could have been a $60 game or it could have been a $10 game. Looks like it was $30. So it was in between, which amounts to about 1,300, copies of the game were essentially illegally, or, we'll just say incorrectly obtained
Sure.
and distributed. And that's not a small number, especially for like a smaller game or an indie studio. Or I don't even know what Factorio is. I don't know who Wube is or Wooby. I'm gonna look that up there. Wooby. No,
Ubisoft.
Oh, well. I got an FM radio station, so Ubisoft. But no, I mean, you've used these before, right? These kinds of sites.
Yeah, I mean, I used to kind of back before I knew what they were. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is now that they've cracked down, because it is something that, like if you go to any legitimate deals site, like istthereanydeal.com, or there's a subreddit for game deals, they don't allow anyone to post. They moderate anything from a gray market site. So if you're looking for a genuinely good deal, I strongly recommend istthereanydeal.com or the subreddit gaming deals. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely used this before, and it went fine, and I still have access to those keys that I bought.
No, that's good. And for the most part, we call it a gray market, and obviously we know these things happen. I remember when they first made this claim, where people were starting to make this claim against G2A, and then G2A kind of fought back a little too arrogantly, instead of just saying, wow, that sucks. Like it's the easiest PR spin in the world. Wow, we'll look into that. Sure. I mean, our reputation is stellar, and we don't believe for a second that that's true, but we'll look into that. That's all you have to do. It's all you have to do. And I remember the CEO or something was on Twitter, and he was starting his own Twitter beat, basically. And I remember I watched a couple Jim Sterling episodes when it was hot, on a hot topic, and he was railing against them because that's the kind of crap that he loves to rail against. And it was just a bad look for them. So even if they didn't do it on purpose, and there's like no true wrongdoing on theirs, and it was more just a gap in their security, it was a dumb move to make. And now they've lost, $40,000 is pretty small probably for them, but it's still $40,000 you got to explain to somebody, and then you look stupid. And it's just a forced error. Every step of the way it was a forced error.
You mean it was an unforced error?
Yes, I'm not a baseball
I'm saving us from corrections next week.
Thank you. Oh, I feel dumb. Just like them. All right. Next item. IGN's Summer of Gaming schedule has been unveiled.
Ooh.
It's a ghost. But for real, there's not a lot there. At least not a lot of exciting stuff.
No.
So, Jason, you looked over it a little bit more than me. What was your takeaway?
Well, so looking through like the Reddit threads on this, it seems like the general consensus is that people are tired of these small digital events. And it's not just this one. It's just like people are tired of just digital event after digital event after digital event. Every publisher, every developer, every news outlet doing their own thing. I think people were starting to miss E3 a little bit. Just having everything kind of consolidated in that 1 week was really nice. And you and I kind of talked about this. Do you want to kind of rehash that conversation? We talked about this before we started recording. But this kind of is always how E3 is. If you were to go, you'd see all these smaller developers and these smaller games and these looks at these games. But then you'd also have the big dogs coming in and showing what they have. And that's like all of the fluff and none of the meat.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
First of all, I want to tell anybody who ever said, oh, E3 is a dinosaur and it needs to die out. Suck it. Because this is why you need E3. I mean, I love E3. I was never one of those people. And this is why. Because, I mean, part of the problem isn't just that E3 isn't there, but part of the problem is why E3 isn't there. And so a lot of people have the same issues. E3 couldn't be a thing because of the virus. And so a lot of people can't do their thing because of the virus. We'll talk up a little bit more on it in a second, but BlizzCon was canceled for 2020. Normally happens sometime in early to late fall.
Yeah.
November-ish. But it's being pushed back. Everybody's pushing back, and they don't have anything to show for it. Nintendo's canceled all their directs. It looks like they're just going to shadow drop things. They don't have E3 to rally around. They don't have something, at the very minimum, they don't have a fire under their butt to get them to get their stuff out. And so this is why we need E3.
Agreed. And just before we stray too far from the subject, I'm looking through the list of kind of announcements, or maybe not announcements, but the list of like what developers are going to be there, what they're going to be showing. There are a couple of unannounced things that are going to happen. So maybe this will surprise us, but nothing really sticks out here. The thing that we both said kind of caught our eye was Torchlight 3, but there's also SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom.
Which is cool, but it's not something you need revealed necessarily. I mean, obviously, as a marketing thing, you want to get it out in front of people during a time frame where they're looking, for a game announcement. There's going to be more information on that Scarlet Nexus game that was in the Inside Xbox trailer, which I'm sure people are excited for. But specifically, I guess it's less the content and quality of the games that they're showing, and more the announcements. Like, either we have heard or haven't heard of these, but none of them are like, oh, I need to know about this game. And in looking at the developers behind the unannounced games, it's like, well, I don't know any of these developers, so it can't be something amazing unless it's really out of left field, or they're just particularly talented and we haven't had a chance to see anything from them yet.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to say, kind of while we're on this topic, and I don't want to continue to talk about this for much longer, but I don't understand why Jeff Keighley's what is his called? It's
Summer Games Fest. Or
Summer Games Fest.
Yeah.
Why is that taking up like an entire month? Like, it doesn't really make sense why
it's going all the way till August.
Yeah, okay. So 3 months. It basically starts mid-May and ends in August.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why not just concentrate it and curate it for like the week in June that E3 would have been? Which it seems like this is kind of what IGN's trying to do, which I think is a much better approach to something like this.
I haven't been keeping track of either of these very tightly because,
me neither,
for the most part, their thing takes a backseat to the actual company announcing the game. But if I had to guess, IGN's thing is more like E3 in that, like, hey, we're hosting you. Whereas, like, for instance, the next big thing, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, is a Last of Us 2 State of Play from PlayStation. But it's technically in partnership with Summer Game Fest. Like, except Sony, PlayStation, they don't need Summer Game Fest, but they're partnering with them.
Right.
And for the most part, and it was the same thing with the Unreal 5 demo. Again, maybe a little bit more help on Keighley's side and the Summer Games Fest crew and all that to like have Summer Game. I keep saying games, but it is game, whatever. Anyway, the Unreal 5 demo might have benefited a little bit more from the extra marketing, but obviously The Last of Us Part 2, State of Play, PlayStation, all three of those things do not need any help from Summer Game Fest, and yet it's part of it. So if I had to guess, this is really just like, he's just glomming onto really cool things because he's really cool and he has really cool connections, whereas IGN's trying to be a vehicle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, he's just putting them all under kind of one marketing umbrella, but IGN's trying to bring focus onto these smaller things.
Right. Anyway,
okay.
I'm still excited. I wish it was a little more condensed, obviously. Like, a week always seemed like a lot to happen in such a small amount of time. If I had my way, E3 would probably be about 2 weeks long. Not at that same exact, like, intensity and pacing like it usually is. Like, let's spread it out just a little bit more. But it's having it over 4 or even, like, 6 months, or I just don't like it. I don't like it. And
Agreed.
again, speaking to that weird pacing and the pushing it back, as we mentioned earlier, BlizzCon has been canceled for 2020. Won't be held until early next year. So everybody's canceling everything. That's not a big surprise. No one's going to be gathering for BlizzCon. But what's weird is that it won't be occurring this year at all. And right now we only have a vague definition of early next year, so early 2021. Why they can't get their act together to put some stuff together, we keep asking that question, and I'm starting to feel bad because I'm sure there's decent reasons. Could be that they had nothing to show and this was kind of their out anyway. I know that BlizzCon the last couple of years has been pretty disappointing for most people. They've got so many games under their umbrella, and yet rarely ever have more than one game announcing anything big. I think last year it was a Hearthstone thing, and Overwatch.
Didn't they
2.
also do like Overwatch 2 or
right?
something?
Overwatch
like
2 was. Oh, I'm sorry. It was Diablo 4 in Overwatch 2.
Okay.
So, but it was just an announcement that Diablo 4 exists, and then that trailer. A lot of people gushed about it. And we weren't recording the podcast yet, but if we had, I would have said my piece on that and how unimpressed I was with it. Not the fidelity and the art of the trailer itself. Obviously, it was a pretty cool trailer, but as it speaks to a Diablo game, I didn't like it. I was like, I don't get this. This doesn't make any sense, and it's still not as good as the ones from 1998. So, Tyrael was so cool. So cool. So yeah, we're just going to delay our disappointment a few extra months as compared to.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it got delayed again
after this.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if early next year. But maybe it is smart on their part to not nail down a time frame because they don't know when they're going to be able to have it for real. So maybe it's February, but maybe it's April. So.
Yeah, which is fine. I don't care. I've not to be like an edgy, harsh guy, but like I've written off Blizzard. I have, in the sense that I literally do not care about them anymore. I do not look for them in the news. I do not get excited when I hear about their stuff, except for the caveat of a Diablo 2 remaster. So it's just become white noise to me whenever Blizzard is in the news, for the most part.
It's very much like a wait and see. Like they have to prove it before I get excited.
Oh, exactly. They're on the back foot, essentially. All right, so we promised we wouldn't talk a lot about news, and we're not.
We did it
for
once.
Woo! I think that was only 40 minutes. All right, so let's talk about what we've been playing. Jason, what you been playing?
Okay, so I've got my staples. I've got Rocket League that I played one night with Tyler, and then we also played that same night Far Cry 5. So I'm not going to really go into those because I've talked about them so much, but they are just my go-to games.
Those are good go-to games.
Yeah, they're so easy to pick up and play, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, especially if you're playing like Far Cry 5, if you're playing the co-op campaign with somebody, and it's so easy to just like when you play together, you go in and you're right there where you left off. So it's that one we really have enjoyed, and I've spoken about it ad nauseum. The other thing that I've been playing. That I don't know if you want me to talk about it now or in our next segment, but I've been playing the original Final Fantasy VII, actually.
Yeah, we'll talk about it now. So Jason is referring to his vegetables, Jason's vegetables, in which 2 weeks ago, we decided that he was going to pick a game and finish it. And then in a hilarious turn of fate, immediately stopped playing it to play a game I never, ever would have imagined he'd want to play. So it was Batman Arkham Asylum. Oh, a great game. Right up his alley. Everybody loves it. Critical and commercial acclaim. No, Jason immediately said, I ain't doing that. I'm going to play Final Fantasy VII. So he traded his green beans for broccoli. Whatever.
That's such a good analogy.
That's fine by me. So yeah, tell me how you've been enjoying it. Because I've been watching these finally plays. And I've been really enjoying it. Both from a personal standpoint, as someone who knows you and how much you've written these games off, even to a minor degree in the past, but also as someone who loves this the series, this game, and the genre in general, and watching someone who is completely unfamiliar with it and just kind of like, it's a marvel to behold, really.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting, like as somebody who grew up, I'm not me, like for somebody else, because I know this would be interesting for me, like the analogous thing would be like, if someone had never played Super Mario World and then they decided to pick it up one day as a 30-year-old, I'd be like, oh, cool. Yeah, let's see how they do. And so I assume that's kind of how it is for people who kind of grew up with Final Fantasy VII. So first of all, I have to shout out here, YouTube user, The One Wit Reason. He is the one, or she is the one that encouraged me to continue doing this. They commented on the first video and said, hey, are you going to keep making these? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it enough to keep going. And so since then, I've made a part 2 and a part 3 just over the weekend. And I've gotten all the way up, and I'm going to try I'm I'm going to try to avoid any sort of major spoilers, but I'm going to talk like super light story spoilers here. Just like major plot points, or not plot points, but just areas. So I made it basically through Wall Market section. So I mean, I feel like I'm starting to like understand the battle system, understand the appeal, like actually get into the world, which I didn't think was going to happen. It was like where it like clicked for me was after you leave Aerith's house. Aerith?
So it's a typo. I think a translation error. So in the original game, in the original English game, it's Eris with an S at the end, but her name is actually Aerith, TH at the end, and that's how she is in pretty much every piece of media afterward, and that is how she is in the remake as well. So
Aerith.
Yeah, so what happened is a huge generation of people grew up saying Eris, and then they had to switch to this new one, and it felt like to every one of us that we had a lisp all of a sudden. Because you that's what you thought it was, and no, it's Aerith. I'm like, that sounds dumb. What's wrong with you?
No, it's not.
It only sounds dumb because you thought it was the other way.
Right. So after you leave Aerith's house, I think is where I just like it clicked for me, and to me, that's kind of the point at which you're out of tutorial mode in a way, because they're not as handholdy. You can go to different areas, you can take different paths. You can kind of explore a little bit, go into people's houses, talk to them. That's always what I loved about that generation or that time in gaming, is just like the mundaneness of going into somebody's house. And I know that I have stated that I'm not a side quest person, but for whatever reason, I loved going into these houses, like checking out their stuff, talking to them, seeing like who they were, what their life was. And just kind of like exploring the world that way, on my own accord. And it's been a really enjoyable experience. And then to go through kind of that harder section to get between, for me, it was a harder section for some reason to get from Aerith's to Wall Market through the Sector 6 or whatever. Was that a notably hard section, or is it just that I struggled with it?
It's fine. I played this game not that long ago, like early last year, I believe. Played the whole thing through. I don't remember that being a hard part, but I'd also played the game like 4 times before that. But it didn't look like you had ever equipped any materia on Aerith.
I did. I equipped it eventually. I might have been after. I cut out a lot because what happened was I kept getting lost. So like in that third gameplay video, it was about 2 hours of footage that I cut down to 30 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And a large portion of that was me getting lost.
I'm so proud of you.
And what happened was I kept getting lost, and I kept triggering random encounters, and then I kept almost dying.
Yeah, if you're limited on items, and you did you have the cure magic?
Yeah, I did. So then what I ended up doing is leaving that little cave, and I bought like 26 potions, 3 Phoenix Downs, and a couple other things. And then I equipped the cover materia to Cloud and the heal materia to Aerith.
That's a pretty
and
good
then
start.
It became a little bit easier. But to that point in the game, they never show you how to equip materia.
There was a guy you could have talked to at some point in like the slums around the Seventh Heaven. And I think I mentioned this last time we talked about it. They would have walked you through a tutorial. Otherwise, I think you can miss it entirely. Yeah. So no, I mean it's not. Yeah. So your loadout was quote unquote wrong. I guess that was part of it. Another part is so in a lot of Final Fantasies up to this point, I think this is the last one that does it. You have a front row and a back row. You'll notice that enemies are the same way when you have more than like 3. Some of them are behind the others.
Okay.
And if you attack with like a melee attacker like Cloud, you attack the back row, he'll do less damage because they're further back.
Which makes sense.
And then, but Barrett can do the same damage to both. So the same can be with you. You can put your characters in the front and back row. So if you open your menu, you'll notice that Eris's picture is just a little bit further back than Cloud's. It's not a style choice. She's literally in the back row. And you can change that in the menu. I don't remember exactly the setting. So when she goes to attack, she's already weaker than Cloud, but because she's in the back row, she'll be even weaker than Cloud.
Oh.
And so it's best to give her the magic materia because she has a higher magic stat. Let her just bolt the harder stuff like the Hell House, which is that house that you fought. And they're not a slouch. Those things will, if you don't kill them fast and quick, they will do a lot of damage to you. So if you're running around really lost, I can know you absolutely see why you would have had a little bit of a tough time. And let me tell you, man, that pipe that you couldn't figure out running up, I guarantee everybody's gotten stuck on that, because the first time you do not realize that it's part of like the scenery that you can climb up. It's not clear whatsoever.
It looks like a pole. The way that it's shadowed. It's
one of those things that you can't unsee, but until you do, it doesn't look like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, honestly, I'm really enjoying it. Like, I can't wait to get back into it. And I don't think I'm going to be able to beat it before The Last of Us Part 2 comes out, but I think that's going to be the game that's going to be my in-between these major releases of The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima and Cyberpunk. Like, this is going to be the rest of my year, probably. As bad as that sounds to say, because if it's truly a 30-hour game and I'm only, say, 3-ish hours in, then it's going to take me a while to beat this.
That's fine if you're fine playing, picking up, and because the problem with RPGs, it's a classic problem, and it's one you'll understand too, because it's not JRPG specific, but any long game, it's like, I don't remember what I was doing. I don't remember how to play this game, and if I'm not willing to restart over, I'm never going to play it again.
Well, that's probably going to be one of the benefits of filming myself doing it.
True.
Is I can just go back and watch a couple of the videos or skim through them and be like, oh yeah.
Yep. And I was going to say one more thing. Oh, what was it? No, can't remember. Sorry.
It's gone.
It was going to be like advice. Oh, I remember it. You hate the rate of encounters. I get that. And I get that you want to record it, but here's your last chance to play the Switch version. Or find a way to record the Switch version, because it has the ability to turn them off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wonder if I can do the same with like mods on the PC version.
Good question. Very possible, I'm sure.
But I'm not going to worry about it too much, because something like this, as frustrating as some of these not having the modern niceties are, it's just, I feel like there's something to be said for experiencing it in its original format.
True.
And obviously, I'm not playing this on a PS1, but this is probably as close as I can get to it. And it's fun because, like, I noticed that Aerith typo. I got to get tricked by the typo of the tail being up. Like, there's these certain things. I couldn't find the pipe. And now I have that experience with me. And I could pretend just pretend like I played on the PS1 when I was 10.
Yep.
But no, and I don't know. I just feel like there's something to be said about it.
Cool. Did you finish all of Wall Market, like with the Corneo and everything?
Yeah, I got so. Yeah, and again, I don't want to get into super story spoilers, but I did get to that far, and then I dropped through his little floor, and I triggered the mini boss, and I got to the next area, and I hit the save point.
Cool, gotcha.
So is that all of Wall Market? Am I done with it?
Yeah, you'll be able to go back there eventually, but that's a side quest if you want to do it, kind of thing. And yeah.
Nope.
No, I don't think I did. I think my most recent playthrough was the first time I ever went back to Wall Market. I mean, you might have to. I might be misremembering, but like it's an insignificant side trek if you do go there. But anyway.
Well, let's talk about a game you finished recently that I'm super excited and proud of you for.
Finished? No, I haven't finished it yet.
Oh, well, made significant progress on it.
Yes. So I finally picked back up, because I've started this before, The Last of Us. So it's like topsy-turvy day.
It's really weird. It's a weird day here.
Because like to rag on this. I don't actually have a problem with this game. I just like to rag on it because I do think it's a little overhyped. But I am also like 9 years removed from its initial launch.
Right.
But yeah, I've been playing The Last of Us. I'm trying to remember. I'm going to spoil this game as I talk about it.
Come on.
What?
Well, you can't.
I'm going to spoil the parts that I'm playing through. I mean, come on, guys. Like, here's your warning. Here's your spoiler warning.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, as long as you warn people.
Yeah, I just did.
It's fine.
I'm warning about. I'm not going to. I know how the game ends. I'm not going to get into that right now.
Right.
I am just going to talk about the story beats. I'm not going to go into granular detail, but I am.
Right, just kind of like I just did with Final Fantasy
Pretty
VII.
Much. So,
okay, just go. Yeah, I beat this game.
So
Let's do it.
Tess is the girl, I think, in the beginning who gives you the job to take Ellie because she's immune to the virus. That's the whole premise of the game. Is Joel's got to take this girl across the city or state lines and get her to the Fireflies because she's immune and they've got doctors and scientists and they're going to figure this virus thing out. And so Tess dies and you keep taking her through a couple places. I go through the hotel. I got through that. That was pretty cool. Which was like where they did. I remember seeing the trailer for this back at the E3 that they just they first announced it, and man, I was definitely with everybody on that. That was something no one had ever seen before on a console game, and really any game. Like, it might have not been the best looking game available fidelity and graphic wise, but that doesn't mean it wasn't the best game anyone had seen yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I will see. I didn't know about this game really because I missed the PS3 generation pretty much altogether. So I didn't really get in tune with this game until the remaster on PS4.
Okay, so let me tell you. The trailer that dropped was from a scene, and I don't know if it played out exactly like this in the game because it's been so long, but it was from a scene in the big hotel that you go through where there's a bunch of enemies, and it's just this brutal trailer because the game's brutal, and it just kind of showcases perfectly the kind of experience you're going to have, and it just, it was jaw-dropping. Everyone's like, what? Because it was just a really perfectly put together trailer. Top 10 trailers all time.
They do. I mean, they know how to do a trailer.
Yeah, because it's just an extension of what they already do in game, which is make a really good cinematic experience.
Right.
That is also still gameplay. Anyway, so I got through that. I met that hobo dude. He's not a hobo, but he's like a prepper. I think his name was Bill or something like that.
Yeah, that guy is insane.
And that was fun. So what I'm enjoying so far is like everything's like a little vignette. I don't remember how to say that French word.
I'm going to go with vignette.
I'm going to go with vignette too. You meet a person or you go to an area and it's this like little micro story, and it's like an episode of a show basically, or 2 episodes because usually about an hour long. And running into Bill was a little episode because he's this prepper guy who lives outside of this zone where the remnants of the military still control everybody. He's got booby traps set up everywhere. You have a pass with him clearly. He owes you a favor. You're going to go get this engine for a truck and make it out of town. He's talking about his partner. Turns out it's his former lover. I think anyway, that's the vibe I got. So he's gay in that sense. And so that's just this nice little like undercurrent story. You find letters. You find him. He hung himself because he got bit. And there's this moment where Bill finds him. And Joel's like, man, that really sucks. So they have this really awful man because they're both like, emotionally dead inside and outside. And then, but it just ends. This guy comes into your life in the game and it ends. And that's not something that happens a lot of games, almost of any genre. It's actually, funnily enough, something that happens in Dragon Quest of all games. Like Dragon Quest is a game made of tiny little stories that all just kind of build up. And then you have your eventual clash with the big bad guy, but the whole time everything is this little like, oh, I went to this town and we made best, because it's like an anime basically, we made best friends with the local loser. we taught him how to love himself, and then we moved on to the next town where a monster was plaguing people, but turns out the monster was a total loser who needed friends. It's the same thing over and over again, except this time instead of anime it's like The Walking Dead. And what I keep thinking of as I play this game is like, man, I've done this before but never quite as good. So The Walking Dead, if you've ever seen it, is a show about the post-apocalyptic world where mostly everyone's either dead or a zombie. And everyone's, trying to rebuild life and civilization, all that. It's that classic story. Except The Walking Dead is so long and so dramatic and so boring half of the time. Whereas this can be like distilled and boiled down to the best parts, the best kinds of stories. So afterward, I make my way through and we bump into another group, an older guy, not an older guy, but like there's an adult man and a child, I guess, about Ellie's age, and it's his older brother and a younger brother. And they're trying to get to the Fireflies too, some radio tower, I think. And you meet up with him and you have a fairly short adventure with him. And then the little brother gets bit, and it's like, whoa, that sucks, and he's, because the entire time the little brother's having these moments of like inadequacy, and the big brother is just constantly harping on him. So you got to stay with me. It doesn't feel useful and it feels doted on. And then in his last moments, he failed him. And then what really surprised me is once you find out as the player, he turns within like a couple hours. I was not expecting that. And then the brother shoots him dead. and then the brother shoots himself because he can't live with what he just experienced. And it's a storyline you've seen before. It was one as the pieces started to unfold, that I was like, okay, I know where this is going. And yet, because it happened in such an immediate sense, it was like boom, boom, boom. I was like, whoa. And then like it takes a time skip, goes to the fall, and like you're in a completely different location. It's like, oh, we put that behind us. And again, it was like an episode of TV. And I could have put the game down. I kept playing for a little bit, not too much longer. But it was just really well done. And so, to sum up, this is a very good game, especially from a storytelling perspective. It's not my favorite kind of story. Zombies, post-apocalyptic stuff is not my jam for the most part.
Yeah.
This is essentially Uncharted with a different coat of paint. And I don't think that's too derivative to say. It's a very different coat of paint. It's a very good coat of paint. Like the Uncharted could never be what The Last of Us is simply because of the subject matter of the two games. But at their core, they're the same games. There's just less climbing in one of them.
Right. One's kind of more Indiana Jones and the other's zombie trope. But
yep, exactly. But, and I'm not going to nitpick anything for the most part. There was one thing that, because the reason I'm not going to is because this game is like 7 to 8 years old at this point, and there's no point in me ragging on it for that, because at the time, none of those things were a problem, and we've come a long way, and I'm sure The Last of Us 2 will have gotten rid of those. There was one thing. Crap, what was it? This is why you write things down.
This is why you write things down, Karch.
Yep. I can't remember what it was. If it comes to me, I'll blurt it out for no reason. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I don't know how far I am, honestly. I just met up with Joel's brother at some encampment that they're at like some hydroelectric plant. And, in the beginning, you see a bit of Joel's past. It starts out before the outbreak happens. He has a brother. And then after the outbreak, there's a time skip. And you learn that Joel's not, he's on the outs with his brother. His brother's not around anymore. He's very much alive, obviously, from the way they talk about him. He had some run-in with the Fireflies, which are this other militant group who think they know the best way. I haven't really seen or heard much of them or learned much of them yet. But anyway, we just met up with him. He's got his own family. Looks like he's turned his life around, so to speak. And he's got a new viewpoint that I think they're going to clash with, I'm sure. We'll see if he can survive the night now that the main characters have arrived, because I have a feeling that they're just one of those harbingers of death kind of people.
For sure. It's the same way in the Walking Dead show, so.
Exactly. Once the main characters show up, everybody dies.
Yeah. Sometimes even the main characters, so.
Yeah, but yeah, I really want to finish it. The Last of Us 2 comes out, June 10th?
I don't know. I don't think it's that soon. Hold on.
Maybe the 12th.
Because I think the 12th is the spoiler. It's the 19th. The 12th is where the embargo drops.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 3 weeks. That's plenty of time. I'll finish this before then.
Okay.
I'll make sure.
This might be the first time I ever digitally pre-order and preload a game.
You've never done it?
No, never.
Yeah, I would.
Because I can't tell you the last time I paid $60 for a game.
That's true. Yeah. What? I mean, you must have done it somewhat recently, but
for real, the last time I did it was Far Cry 5, which is kind of funny because I ended up loving that game, but when I first got it, I really didn't like it, and I think there were a lot of things going on there at that time because I had just gotten my PC and I was trying to play it on the TV. And it was like a whole thing, and I was playing it by myself. I do think that one's better experienced with in co-op. But anyway, beside the point, I have not bought a brand new game for a very long time.
It's true. I was like Smash Bros, but no, I got you that for Christmas.
Right.
I'm trying to think. I could have sworn there was one, but then we got Game Pass, and that's probably what I'm confusing it with because the Game Pass is such a good deal.
I know. I got Game Pass for Outer Worlds, and
you're so cheap. But in the best way.
Right.
So I've been playing one other thing a little bit. I bought a birthday present for myself last week. Was that last week?
Yeah. No, it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, time flew. I was about to say, what? Right. Anyway, I finally pulled the trigger on Divinity Original Sin 2, which I'd been just kind of like, every time I open up my wish list on my Switch, I was like, I should finally get that. Then I wouldn't. Then we started playing Dungeons & Dragons again. And I was like, ooh, I need something that fills this void that scratches this itch in between our sessions. So I finally bought this. And for anybody who doesn't know, it's it's what would be colloquially traditionally known as a computer RPG, a CRPG, which is stuff like Baldur's Gate, the first two Fallouts, where you kind of have this isometric view and you have a party, and it's very granular. You move them, you do their actions, you talk to, like, everything's click, 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 move, move, move. Very computer oriented. And this game originally came out on PC to huge critical and commercial success for a game like this anyway, to kind of break out from being fairly still unknown from the original. Like, I didn't know what it was, for instance, and I don't remember anybody talking about it when it came out. But this one, I think because it came to console might have been the reason. But it's fun. It's giving me that D&D fix. It's super hard, but it's, if you like open-ended gameplay and RPGs, this game has got it in spades. You can do anything you want. Like, there's no like alignment system, but there are consequences for actions, both good and bad, obviously. So you can't just murder everyone without everyone trying to turn on you. Very Skyrim in that sense, but even more flexible. Like, it's far more reminiscent of Outer Worlds flexibility, in that you could kill everybody and there's still a way around it, to solve the quest, at least the main quest. Maybe not every side quest. If you kill the quest giver, the quest is over, and that's all there is to it. But it's,
as it should be.
Exactly. There should be consequences, and that's okay, because there should be enough content for you to be like, oh, well, I screwed that pooch. I'm going to go over here and do this thing now. It's super hard. I think it's a little bit harder because I'm playing on a console with console controllers, and it's, these kinds of games are just best played with a mouse and keyboard, but I was never going to play it on my PC. But it is also supposed to be hard. I'm going to knock down the difficulty because I'm hitting too many walls too often, and I don't want to grind in a game like this where combat can take a really long time. It's really strategic, really slow-paced, thoughtful, methodical, etc. Kind of like Fire Emblem in that way.
So if you want a slower paced Fire Emblem, that's not grid based.
That's not grid based. Correct. It is not grid based.
Is it turn based?
Yes, it is turn based.
Okay.
So yeah,
I mean, it sounds oddly like the thing, because I've never played a game like this before.
Mm-hmm.
I've never played a computer RPG, but it kind of sounds a little bit like Civilization, but more granular.
Much more granular, less grid based. Obviously, Civilization is, you're a civilization and you're dealing on that plane. You're a party. You're a guy. You can pick your origin, and then the ones you didn't pick are the people that show up as your party members. You're still kind of playing them all like they're main characters. You just technically have one technical main character, and then you're just, you're like a magician. Like, you have magic powers, and there's this faction in the world that's like, that's the devil. We don't like magic, and so they're trying to stamp it out. And I still haven't gotten my magic powers back. I'm so early in this game because A, it's hard and I might die and have to reset, or B, it's so fun to just kind of walk around and do stuff, and find stuff, follow breadcrumbs and pull at that thread. But
I need to get better at being okay doing that and focusing less on trying to beat the game.
I mean, you should just focus on what's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And if beating the game is fun at the time, that's cool. But if it's not, you just have to finish it too, though, eventually.
Yeah, I was going to say beating the game is rewarding, but playing the game is fun. But I just have this issue where I'm like, I don't have time to have fun. I need the reward.
Exactly.
So,
all right.
What are you going to do?
You're going to play Final Fantasy VII, apparently.
Yeah, I guess that is what I'm going to do.
All right. Well, that's all I've been playing. I hope to play more of both of those. Xenoblade Chronicles Remastered's coming out on Friday, though, so I'm picking that up.
Whoop, whoop.
Maybe. We'll see. Sometimes I'm pretty fickle with myself.
I understand that.
That's the sound of the police. Sorry, your little noise popped that in my head. All right. You grumpy about anything these days?
Not today.
No.
I mean, I had something, but now I just can't for the life of me remember what it was.
It's a theme. We just old men this episode.
Yeah.
I got a gripe. It's not the one I wrote down. What the heck is Valorant?
Oh, geez, I have no idea.
I've
heard that. I'm Googling it now. I have no idea at all. It looks like a first-person shooter of some sort.
Yeah, because like all of a sudden, not everybody's talking about it. It's not like a Fortnite kind of craze where it just blew up, but it is clearly gaining traction in the kinds of spheres that play game. I think it's team-based or a hero-based shooter. That's what I meant.
So it's Riot Games. It's a 5v5 shooter. It doesn't even look like it's out yet. It looks like it's not out until June 2nd.
People are playing it. They're talking about it.
It's probably in early access or something.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like feeling old and out of the loop in something that I supposedly think I'm very much in the loop of. I was like, what is this? And it's so funny because what makes me really old about it is that I would see a thread on Reddit or an article pop up or listen to someone talk about it on a podcast, and then I just wouldn't follow up on it. Like, I refused to. I'm like, no, it didn't come to me. I don't want any part of it.
Right. I get that.
So maybe I'll do some homework and find out what Valorant is.
You're not gonna like it, I don't think. It's basically like it looks like a more realistic Overwatch.
Oh, that sounds terrible. I'm not saying I'd like it or want to play it, but I want to know what it is so I can dislike it for no good reason.
Well, there you go. I just told you. It's like a more realistic Overwatch.
I don't care for that at all because
I mean, and it's built in Unreal, so like the graphics kind of look like an up-resed Half-Life 2.
Okay.
So,
anyway. Interesting.
I feel like the Unreal Engine has like a very distinct like characteristic.
Oh, it does. Especially Unreal 4. Like a lot of the games that have come out in the last 3 years, if it's Unreal 4, you usually don't have to tell me that. I can just like, okay, yeah. Or once you do tell me, I'm like, oh, of course it does. That's obvious.
So, anyway.
All right, that's all I have.
Topic of the show.
That's right. We're gonna start a new thing. We're gonna start a topic of the show, something to break out into smaller segments for people. Maybe we'll see. Who don't want to hear us ramble on about news and Dr. Pepper
Schwartz.
Dr. Pepper Schwartz. Excuse me. Most prestigious doctor.
Sounds like it.
Today's topic of the show, first topic of the show, is what is your biggest gaming regret? Because we all got regrets, even in gaming. Sometimes that's something we got rid of. And I think you're going to see there's a theme about that with us.
For sure.
Sometimes it was something that you didn't play. Sometimes it's something you did play that you wish you hadn't. So, Jason, why don't you start us off with some of your biggest gaming regrets?
Okay. So I'm going to list a few of these because I have a lot of gaming regrets, and I don't even think we could probably do like a part 2 of this segment somewhere down the line.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm just going to list some of mine, and then I'll talk about 2 of my bigger regrets that I have. More regrettable regrets, I guess, as it were. But so like, okay, I've got a couple. So just paying $60 for Elder Scrolls Online.
Oof.
That was such a big mistake. I think I got it around launch. So that would have been like 2014, 2015, somewhere in that time frame. And I bought it. Greg bought it. This is funny. So Greg is my brother and Jordan is Josh's brother that you hear us talk about all the time. So Jordan and Greg are really good friends and they both had it. And then I convinced Matt to get it as well. So we had 5 people.
Wait, hold up. Why? Why were you all on this game? Because
that's a really good question.
MMOs. You were never a World of Warcraft guy, never an EverQuest guy. I would imagine none of you were. So why did you get this game?
So the sales pitch was from Greg, and again, we've covered this enough times for everyone to know Greg's the worst. So what Greg told me is, and I did not look up anything about this because he called me. He was super hyped. He's like, "We've got to play this. This is basically Skyrim with friends." And I was like, that sounds amazing. Let's do it. And what I learned about myself in this experience is that I despise MMOs. And I can't remember how much I've talked about it on the show, but they must have been having server problems or something the night we played because first of all, it was impossible for us to get in a party. And then second of all, they had, you basically had to be standing on top of a party member who took the quest to also receive credit for the quest. And then they would have things like certain regions, and I guess it's because we got it close to console launch on the PS4. And so like certain regions were so crowded, I think just everyone was at the beginning of the game, that we would literally have to stand outside a cave and wait for people to come out and let that environment reset and then walk in and then do ours. And then we'd come out and there'd be people behind us. Like people were queuing outside of areas where quests would trigger. And it felt like being at the worst amusement park of all time. You would just stand there, wait for the cave door to open, go in, cave door would shut behind you. You'd kill like one bad guy in 15 seconds. Then the quest would only trigger for like one person and not the rest. And then you'd have to go back out and come back in, which meant you had to stand in line again. So yeah, Elder Scrolls Online was terrible. And then what I learned later, after I got rid of that game, is that Greg and Jordan were on the same server, but they weren't in the same party. They were just on voice chat talking to each other while they went and did their own thing within Elder Scrolls Online. So they weren't playing together at all. But whatever, they were having fun with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we used to do that, Robert and I, especially, but Kit played as well, World of Warcraft. We would just get on and we would play at the same time and enjoy each other's company via chat or voice or whatever, even if we weren't playing together whatsoever, just technically, at the same point in time and space. But yeah, everything you described, I don't know. I know Elder Scrolls Online had a lot of problems at launch. People say they've fixed them. A lot of the things you're describing, though, while I don't know them specifically, these are not new to the MMO space, especially a new one when they launch. All the problems you're describing, like I've felt those in various ways in different games.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. It wasn't. Then the combat wasn't fun either. But anyway,
it's terrible. Like, I mean, I loved World of Warcraft for what it was at the time and my time with it. I can never go back to MMOs. Never again.
I'm with you, man. So yeah, I don't know if you wanted to go back and forth. I will name a couple others.
Yeah,
because one of the themes is going to be games we didn't finish. So not finishing Spider-Man.
Oh, that hurts.
I should have finished that. I think I was just eager to get to the next thing. And it's not that long of a game, but it was trading in for a lot at the time, and I was still doing physical back then, so I sold it. Not finishing Horizon Zero Dawn, also a game that, I probably got 12 hours into that game when I stopped playing. And I don't even really know why I stopped playing now that I think back on it.
I feel like if you didn't like it enough to keep going, though, I mean, I know I've heard why you don't like it, and that's fine, whatever. But like, in my opinion, the hook to play and keep finding out the story and the evolving combat should have been enough to keep you even in spite of all that. So either you didn't play as much as you think you did, or it's just not for you,
Yeah, I don't know which it is. And I mean, but the same goes for Spider-Man. Like, I felt like Spider-Man was getting repetitive. Like, I had unlocked a lot of the gadgets and stuff, and like I was just like, okay, cool, now I'm just going from point A to point B doing the same combat over and over and over and over. And I was hating the little puzzle thingies you had to do and like flying through the smog clouds and stuff like that.
Yeah, those are terrible. And
anyway, but as it stands in May 26th, 2020, I do regret not finishing those. I can't say that I'll go back and do it ever, because there are so many good games in the world, but I wish I would have finished them at the time. And then last one that I'm just going to list and kind of briefly talk about, I lost my Super Mario 64 cartridge on a road trip, and that hurt.
That does hurt.
Yeah, because what we used to do is we used to have a little TV in the back, because we would constantly drive from Dallas, Texas to Chattanooga, Tennessee. I think it's like a 14-hour drive, and we typically would just do it all in one day. So I know you're really well acquainted with long car trips,
Oh, yeah.
But usually you're the one driving. But as a kid, sitting in the back seat for 14 hours with nothing to do, I guess I could have read. But anyway, my parents got us a little TV for back there, and we would just put all the N64 games in the floorboard, and we'd switch them out, what we could reach, Oh, and I guess what happened is we probably went to a gas station and it got kicked out of the car and I lost it. I never found it again, and I never got to rebuy it. So
That hurts.
yeah,
I can't say I've ever lost a video game, like a physical game like that.
I think that's the only one I've ever lost.
Yeah. Like, I'm bad with my stuff. Like, even my games I don't treat well. My consoles I didn't treat as well as some people anyway, like you. But I definitely never made sure to always keep tabs on them. Sometimes it took a while, especially those Game Boy Advance games were always easy to lose.
Yeah.
They were so tiny. But
My siblings were notorious for taking out whatever game was in the console and putting it in the case of whatever game they were about to play. So for the longest time of my life, if I wanted to play a specific game, I would have to find out what was already in the console and then trace it back like 6 games to find the right case.
such a classic problem too, because before it was video games, it was, CDs for music.
Right.
Because people did the same thing with, or VHS tapes, depending on how you guys handled that. Because sometimes it was like a blank case and you didn't know which one was which.
Totally. What about you, Karch? I mean, I have a couple more gaming gripes or gaming regrets to talk about, but let's hear some of yours first.
One of my regrets is that you never finished God of War.
Oh yeah,
I'm kidding. I mean, it's terrible that you didn't, but it's not one of my regrets.
I should have listed that.
You should have listed that, but you'll probably go back to that because I'll make you. Anyway, World of Warcraft was a regret of mine after the Cataclysm expansion. So World of Warcraft launched in like 2004, and then like a year and a half or 2 years later, the first expansion came out for Burning Crusade, and then the next one, which was Wrath of the Lich King, which is when you saw peak WoW. World of Warcraft was at its peak popularity during Wrath of the Lich King, and was it was by far my favorite time with the game. Both playing with my friends, playing with other players, just the way they had streamlined everything, the story, going back to fight Arthas from Warcraft 3. Long story, won't get into that now. And then I took a break near the end of it. I never finished it, per se. And then the next one was Cataclysm. I was pretty heavy into that, but I didn't really love it as much. It was finally this time where a lot of people, including myself included, were like, WoW's, it's not the same. It's good there. It's good for some people going forward, but for a lot of the quote-unquote veterans who had fallen in love with an older version of the game, it was finally starting to move away from that. And so I put it to bed. I said, I'm not playing this anymore. I'm going to keep this memory alive. It's going to be fun. I don't want to hate the game. And then I played the next 3 expansions anyway, to varying degrees. For the next one, it was like 2 months. The one after that, quite a bit longer. And the one after that, even less than any of them I think I'd ever played, which was the second to most recent. But I skipped one. I skipped the Panda one because I didn't have any money at the time. But yeah, it just kind of tarnished MMOs for me. It tarnished what World of Warcraft meant to me, like a bit. Like, I mean, I'll have my memories, obviously, but knowing when to stop is a good skill in life, no matter what it is. And knowing when enough is enough. And I did not know when enough was enough with World of Warcraft. Every time they'd launch a cinematic trailer to hype up the expansion, I'd buy in because Blizzard does those great cinematic trailers.
They really, really do.
So good. So yeah, that was something I shouldn't have played, I should say. Because I don't have a lot of stuff I wish I had played. I mean, I do have something, that would have been nice, but like nothing I personally view as like a huge gap in my gaming backlog of, gaming history and all that. Like, as far as what I personally hold, important, I've played all the good JRPGs. I've played most of the really popular games of the year from the past, all the classics, etc. At least a little bit at this point. And either I loved them or I didn't. But anyway, my biggest gaming regrets, though, come from getting rid of stuff. I have gotten rid of too many things from my gaming past that I wish I had kept. One day we'll talk about our gaming history, and this will kind of coincide with it a bit. But the worst thing I've ever done was throw my NES in the trash like an absolute barbarian.
I'm shaking my head.
I'm sure you are. And I don't know why I did it. I mean, I do know why. We were cleaning out the house. This wasn't out of necessity. This was out of irritation because I was like, there's so much stuff. I'm never, ever going to play this again. And I probably wouldn't. Even if I still had it, I probably never would have touched it. maybe I would have busted it out for Juliet, because I think this happened before. If she was alive, she was a baby. Certainly before she could play anything with her hands in a controller. But it was just taking up space in a cabinet. It was like, I could move all this stuff in here, and then I'd have this space open. And I wasn't about to sell it because, like, it was super old and it just wasn't worth the hassle to me. So I just threw it away. Threw it away like a madman. Just threw it in the trash. My NES.
I've never done anything bad. I've done some dumb things, but I've never done anything that bad.
I had that thing since I was 4. It's like if I have my oldest stuffed animal that, like, survived the years. You know, it is, you know, the reigning champion, so to speak, of my stuffed animals. It's the only one I have left. But it was one of the ones I had for the longest too, like as early as I can remember. It's like a Dalmatian dog, like one of those bigger pound puppies. And I have a blanket that I've had since I was a baby. It's in my closet. It's, you know, practically in tatters, and it just sits there, and I'm never going to get rid of it. Well, why would I do that? Because that's monstrous.
Mm-hmm.
And then
you'd make your mom cry.
I would. And then if I told her and rubbed it in her face like a terrible son. But I got rid of this for some reason. I've had it since I was 4. It's the reason I'm even doing this right now. Like, it was the catalyst and the impetus to who I am in many ways, just as a person, but also just as I am as a gamer, as someone who enjoys video games. And I just threw it out like it was trash. I'm getting emotional.
I don't know what to say about that, Karch.
Yeah, you should end your friendship with me.
What?
You should end your friendship with me.
Yeah, and this is how our friendship ends. Right here, right now.
Sorry.
I have some similar, like, things where I've regretted getting rid of them. I've never gotten rid of anything retro like that before. But for, like, the past, like, for instance, I did trade in the Wii U to get the Switch, and I don't regret that at all. One thing that I do regret, though, is... So a couple years ago, I went through this, like, I don't know what you would call it, but I was getting overwhelmed with the number of devices that I owned, because at the time I had the PS Vita, I had the Nintendo 3DS, I had the Wii U, I had the PS4, I bought a PSVR, I had my laptop, I had an iPad that I never used, and so, like, I had all this stuff, and it was almost like overload or just overwhelming when I was like, oh, what do I want to do? It was just too many choices. And I was like, I just need to streamline this whole setup. So I got rid of all my recording gear. I sold that to Greg. I sold my laptop. It was a MacBook Pro that I used to record. I sold that to Greg because he was getting into making music. I traded my PSVR, or I sold my PSVR on eBay. I traded my PS4 in for, like GameStop money or whatever. I got rid of my Wii U and my 3DS. I sold my PS Vita to you. So at the end of the day, what I was left with and what I thought I really wanted was, and I got an iPad. So I had the iPad for my laptop needs and my media consumption needs, and that's it. I had my PC for any sort of like heavy lifting or heavy duty gaming. And then I had my Switch for Nintendo games. And I was like, this is beautiful. This is so perfect. It's so streamlined. I don't care about console exclusives. I don't care about any of that stuff because I have the Nintendo Switch. That's the only exclusives I care about. Whatever. But I really ended up regretting that, and I kind of like slowly over the next 2 years ended up rebuying a lot of the things that I sold. This microphone, it's a Shure SM7B. I used to have one of these, and I sold it to Greg. And then I rebought it. So, just like things like that, I rebought a PS4, but I upgraded to the Pro. I ended up rebuying a laptop. I don't really have like the logic behind it. I'm insane. I'm an insane person. And I just like, I don't know, like my needs evolved, especially with my son getting older and stuff like that. And like, I needed that laptop to be more convenient to help me game more because like the only time that I would get to game were like at night in bed. Now we've kind of dedicated a space where I can be, at night. And so I can dedicate more time and stuff to doing that, stuff like this. But anyway, I just think it's one of those things where I don't think I'm ever going to be a hoarder. I don't think I'm going to keep my PS4 for 30 years. I'm probably going to trade it in for the PS5, especially like as backwards compatibility continues to be more the forefront of a lot of these generation discussions. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to handle it moving forward.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've had to make that decision. Like, had to. Not had to. Gotten the chance to. Like, the last console generation I moved out of was technically the Wii. I had a Wii. And obviously, everyone had a Wii, so there was no selling it.
Right.
It just sat in it, collected dust, and it did eventually break. Mine doesn't work anymore. I would like to get another one. That's why I wanted a Wii U, partially. Because, well, at least, then I can play the Wii U games.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do with mine either. Like, I kind of hope GameStop's still around by the time PS5 comes out, just so that I can trade it in if backwards compatibility is exactly like they say it is. Because why do I have a PS4 if I can play it all on PS5?
Exactly.
I can't. I'm trying to think of a reason every now and then why I should keep it, and I can't. So
I would say maybe like a streaming device in a different room, but that's like it.
I don't have that kind of like luxury though. Like that's not applicable to me.
Yeah.
What was there like, as far as like the money that you got from selling all this stuff to Rich Brother Greg? Did you buy anything with it?
Yeah, so all that stuff I sold to Rich Brother Greg, I actually built my PC with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. That's not the unhappiest ending.
And I bought the iPad as well.
Right. Okay.
So it was like a net neutral between everything that I sold. I didn't sell everything to Greg because, like I said, I sold that PSVR on eBay and actually made a decent profit off of it somehow. But I didn't, just so people don't get mad, I didn't like price gouge. I guess I didn't make a profit. I almost made my money back. In my twisted brain, that was like a good deal for me to almost make my money back. That was basically a profit. That's what I told my wife anyway.
That's all you need to do. That's all she needs to hear. Cha-ching. Such a gold digger. No, she's the best.
All right, what else have you gotten rid of or sold or
a couple more
what?
things. I can't remember. I think I sold my SNES. So I was a Nintendo kid growing up. Obviously, we already went through this just a moment ago. I got a Genesis though for my next console. So my first console, being a kid who likes games. Obviously, at 4 years old, I don't know what a Nintendo Entertainment System is, but turns out I love it. So the next time a chance to get a new one comes around, parents give me a Genesis. I can only imagine it was the cheaper option, because why would they do that knowing that I had a Nintendo? That's what parents do. They just keep buying Nintendos. That was always the joke. But I didn't get a Super Nintendo. And then I never got a chance to get one because there was no such thing as like a resale market back then. You just knew somebody maybe, and you either inherited it from them because they didn't want it, or you just bought it off of them. But obviously the internet wasn't really a useful tool for a 7-year-old kid. So I missed that generation entirely. Didn't play a Super Nintendo game or Super Mario World probably until I was like 8 or 9. But I did eventually get one. This was probably around, I don't know, late middle school, early high school. My mom found one. I'd been asking one for like forever. I had no disposable income of my own. So I got it, loved it, played it for a while, and then it just kind of became another thing that collects dust. And then the same thing happened again. I didn't throw it in the trash this time, and it didn't have quite as much sentimental value, but I did get rid of it fairly unceremoniously just because I was tired of the space it was taking up. And if I'm being honest, probably just a plastic bin, 2 gallons, at the most, as far as like the volume that it could hold. Because I didn't have a lot of games for it. But I got rid of that too. And I got rid of a bunch of classic Nintendo Power magazines and guides. Like, there was this one, it was an issue of Nintendo Power, but it was actually just a guide to Super Mario Bros. 3. One of the best games of all time. And it was one of the best game guides of all time. It was so good. It had maps of everything. The art was amazing. The descriptions were so good. It had all the secrets for all those little card flippy games and the toad houses, so you could get the best stuff every time you went to them. And then along with all these other really classic, like early to mid 90s Nintendo Power magazines, the ones that had the comics in them and stuff, that I think I stole from I did. Mrs. Kogan. Kogan.
Yeah, that was her maiden name.
Right, her maiden name. Miss Kogan. 5th grade, the class where you and I met and became best friends. She had them in her like little class library, and I just checked them out and never returned them. And so not only
at least you checked him out. She could have been like, who had these last?
I assume I checked them out. Maybe I was even worse, a little punk, and just swiped them off the shelf.
Sure. That doesn't seem like young Karch to me.
So I didn't make all the best decisions all the time. I was at a dark side.
Right. Steal the Nintendo Power
And then
magazine.
I eventually did get my own subscription because I was like, wow, these are amazing. But they were also really old for games. And that was part of why I loved them. It was this window into a world I missed and never had because at the time I hadn't gotten my Super Nintendo yet. So it was just amazing. I would just read the strategies to Super Metroid. I didn't know what Super Metroid was. But then I threw them away. And eventually I would get my own subscription to Nintendo Power and acquire my own huge library of magazines. And this one makes a little bit more sense because people just do this. You throw away magazines because they're paper and they just take up a lot of space, way more than my games ever did.
They degrade over time.
Exactly. And for the most part, there aren't that many that you have fond memories of because you just don't. There was a couple that had a few strategies for Harvest Moon that I wore the pages out because we played Harvest Moon 64 like madmen with my sister and my mom. But I miss them. I just wish I had them so I could flip through them from time to time. And strategy guides like one for Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII. Those were tomes, man. They were huge. And the one for 8, unfortunately, I think I threw away because it fell apart because I used it so much because I love that game and I used the strategy guide every time I played it. And I think I bought the Final Fantasy VII one secondhand, and again, I think it just fell apart. And I was like, I can't even my PlayStation is nowhere to be found. I don't have it anymore. So what's the point of this game that I can't play and this guide that I can't use to play it? So I tossed all those out. It's gone. Trash. I'm trash.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, those likely decomposed and grew into trees where they were cut back down and made into new Nintendo Power magazines.
They canceled Nintendo Power, though.
Well, then I guess you are a terrible human.
Thank you. That's what I was waiting to hear. I need someone to just flagellate me.
Yeah, exactly. I have one more gaming regret, but I'm conflicted on this.
Okay, lay it on me.
So maybe you can help me determine if this should be a regret or not. So I actually did a lot of reconnaissance to piece together the history on this because I couldn't remember exactly what the sequences of events were. So I had to talk to my parents and I had to talk to Sean, but I think I understand how this went down. So Sean, being the financially prudent Boy Scout that he was on his way to becoming an Eagle Scout,
Thrifty. They call it thrifty.
Thrifty, yes. But even as a middle school student.
Yes.
To set the scene for you. In those very Nintendo Power magazines that you're speaking of, I think is where they started putting out little dripping out little pieces of information about Project Dolphin. Right? No.
Dolphin was the Wii.
Oh, what was...
Sorry, you're right. No, you're right. Dolphin was GameCube. Revolution was the Wii.
Okay. So I think that's where we, you and me and Karch and Robert... No, gosh. You and me and Sean and Robert. Who am I talking to? We would always for the whole year of 2001, I remember us talking about what's Nintendo working on, how it's going to be amazing, it's going to be the best graphics ever, because the only iteration we had ever known in terms of console jumps was Super Nintendo to N64. That's what we thought a console jump was. So we were like, look at how amazing that jump was. Isn't it going to be even more amazing when they go to the next generation? What is that even going to look like? Is it going to be photorealistic, Because we were idiots. But Sean saved up that whole year and he had the money to buy a GameCube at launch. And he said that his mom actually went into the midnight release to get it for him, but he paid for it.
Right.
So I think that's awesome. So he got it the GameCube came out November 18th, 2001, which would have been right there around Thanksgiving. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Super Smash Bros. Melee was a launch title for the GameCube.
It's so funny. I just listened to a podcast, and not too recently, so I know the answer to this. It was delayed. It was supposed to be, but it was delayed by like 2 weeks.
Okay.
And just like that short of a time span. But yeah, pretty much a launch title.
So I remember when Sean got it and I went over to his house and played it. And I was absolutely blown away because in our neighborhood, like everybody had an N64. Everybody had Super Smash Bros, like the original for the N64. And we would play that game nonstop. And it was like, who's the best in the neighborhood? Blah, blah, blah. Is it Mike Bliss? Is it Thomas Bliss? Is it Mike Mitchell? Like, who's the best? It's a little Mikey.
It was not Little Mikey.
No, it was not Little Mikey. But anyway, so I just remember being totally blown away by Super Smash Bros. Melee. And so that was around that Thanksgiving time frame. Well, my parents were starting to figure out, like, what are we going to get Greg for Christmas? And they asked me what I thought, if they should get like an Xbox or a GameCube. And maybe even PS2 was in the mix, although that was released in October of the year 2000. So I can't remember if that was on the table or not. But I basically convinced them to get a GameCube, and because I thought it was going to be the best one. And I remember having reasons, but I can't remember what they were. But I wonder, the reason I kind of regret this is because I never had a PlayStation growing up. And so there's a lot of these fantastic games that I never really got to play because I never owned a PlayStation, unless I did at like a friend's house. So I wondered, like, what would my gaming history be like if I had a PlayStation 2 instead of a GameCube at this point in my life? Because I don't really remember playing any console exclusive for the GameCube that were near and dear to my heart, because I didn't play Wind Waker. I didn't play Super Mario Sunshine. I don't really remember having any of the big exclusives for the GameCube. So I just wonder what would my whole life trajectory be if I had a PlayStation 2 instead of a GameCube right there.
I don't know. So you say you didn't have a PlayStation, but you would have gotten a PS2. And so in that sense, you would have played the PS2 catalog, which was fine. And you might have found some games on there that like spoke to you, but
wasn't it backwards compatible?
It was, but I mean, you likely would have focused on PS2 games as a younger person.
I don't know. I was friends with you. You probably would have told me all these awesome PS1 games that I could play. I know at some point you had a PS1, so I probably could have borrowed some.
Yeah, that's true. But they were all like JRPGs and stuff.
Well, see, and that's the thing. Maybe I would have been into them because I had that kid time, the summers where you could just get into stuff like that.
That's true. You know? That's true. I think of the three, especially looking back on it, so to be clear, I don't think it was a regret at all to get a GameCube. I thought it was a great console. And I've played all three, and I played all three around the time that they came out. And especially by exclusives, I think the GameCube wins out. You get into some murkier waters where it's like, okay, well, that was technically a PS2 exclusive because they couldn't or didn't make it for the GameCube. Like Final Fantasy X, for instance, is one of my favorite games of all time. But it just happened to be on the PS2, which was a lot of games. They just happened to be on the PS2, but they were exclusive. So it's like, I don't know. I think, anyway, going back to my point, which of the three would have suited you best? Probably would have been Xbox, if I had to guess.
Well, we ended up getting an Xbox later.
Yeah. And how did you feel about it when you got it? Were you like,
I remember
I didn't
liking
have
it.
This, or
say that again?
Where did you think like, oh man, I wish we had gotten this sooner?
No, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
The games I remember having for it. This is where like Greg and I used to play every game together, and we started kind of departing on when we would play games together. So, like for instance, he beat Knights of the Old Republic without me, even though we started that game together.
The game's so good.
I know, and I never went back and played it.
Mm-hmm. You should.
We also had Halo that I remember really liking at the time, and then also, but that was like way later. It felt like because that was like, I don't know. I want to say like 2004-ish. Does that sound right?
Halo?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't remember. I didn't have an Xbox I've never owned one outright. But
let's see when the first one. No, it says 2001. Yeah, 2001. That was Halo Combat Evolved. So, but I don't think I got it until 2000. It was when I lived in Maryland. So it was like 2003 4-ish when I actually got it. But
Okay.
my point is, and I had like Dynasty Warriors and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It felt like a different beast. Like it felt more powerful, like it could handle more. I do remember liking that Xbox, but I don't remember regretting having the GameCube because of specifically Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Dude, that game alone was worth the price for entry because, first, the GameCube was not an expensive console. Even at full price at launch, it was not that expensive. I actually got it pretty soon after launch. Not as soon as you and Sean did, which was like practically at launch.
Right.
But I got that in a couple games. And like I said, we'll do a best Nintendo console, something like that at some point. And it's going to be a toss-up between GameCube and Switch. And GameCube might win. So,
I'll fight you on that later.
Yeah.
Anything else that you had regrets about in your gaming life?
No, nothing I could think of at the time. So we might do a part 2 on this someday, or things that we think the other should have done. Like,
yeah.
This is what I think Jason's biggest regret is.
Okay.
Because I love telling you how wrong you are. So those were our regrets. I think I win that one as far as most regretful thing done.
You're a garbage person.
I'm a garbage person. I should have become a garbage man.
You should have thrown yourself in the trash instead of that NES.
Oh man, why did I do that? Oh, it
you
hurts.
can buy it back. I mean, you have one of those NES classics now, right?
I have the SNES Classic, which I have hacked to load the NES games onto.
Oh, nice. So it's basically the same thing. It's fine. It's the same thing as your treasured, nostalgia.
Same exact thing.
Right.
I have, like I said, I never would have played those games on that console specifically again. So buying the console again would just be like a set piece in my house that I wouldn't be allowed to display anyway. So
right.
Not because I'm not literally allowed, because I don't know where I would. My house is not small, but it's not that big to just be like, oh, here's a gaming console that I don't use.
Right. Any available shelf right now is probably got a toddler toy on it for me.
Exactly. All right. So we'll go ahead and segue out of sad garbage cart into fun Sean questions. Because Sean was the only one who had a question this week.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, fellas. Yep. Spoiler cast changed my mind about Final Fantasy VII Remake. You're welcome. So, listening to you guys talk about Nintendo games last week, in what game and in what way would you like to see a game series, etc., change going forward? So, kind of like a variant to his question last week, which was like, what do you think needs to die? And this one's like, let's go ahead and give it a second chance. What does it need, though, to be revived in your eyes? So, thank you for the question, Sean. I'll go ahead and start, because mine's a little shorter.
Go for it.
Pokemon. Pokemon needs a kick in the pants, in my personal opinion. I'm sure it's doing better than it ever has, especially on a console like the Switch, with all eyes on it, and all eyes are always on Pokemon and Nintendo. But the Switch has made that popularity. I can't remember the statistics, but I know that it broke records because it was a $60 game. They still sold 2 of them, and all that jazz. But the point is, Pokemon is such a far departure from what it was. And a lot of time when people say that, they have nostalgia goggles on. They're like, oh, no, that's what it always was. It was not the way it is today. It is and it's so funny because the differences are subtle, but it's just a mess. It's this uninspired mess. The creature design is still pretty good. I know a lot of people are like, oh, 151 or die. But I don't agree with that. I've loved large swaths of different Pokemon in every generation, or all the way to generation 8 now, and I still enjoy a lot of the cool monster designs I do.
I miss being able to memorize them all.
I mean, you don't have to, though, because there's some that you just never see or never going to use, so what's the point? I mean, that it was a fun...
I had a mental Pokedex, that's the point.
I mean, if you want to be a super nerd, it's really not that hard. I've got most of them memorized. There's over 800, and I've got most of them memorized. Or at least I could tell you a name or a picture. Like, you give me a name, I could tell you, describe it to you. Give me a picture, and I could pretty likely give you the name. I have a gap.
We're going to play that game. We're going to play that game on a future episode. I'm excited about that.
I love that idea. I have a gap in Gen 6, though, because I never played X and Y. Because I didn't.
Well, okay, so talk to me about, like, what would be your bullet points of things that need to be altered in Pokemon to bring you back?
Okay, so Pokemon has never been an open-ended game by any stretch. In the first 2 or 3 gens, you could theoretically challenge gym leaders in a slightly different order, like, but only like 3 out of those 8 gym leaders. You could do like 5, 6, and 7 in any order you want, or not any order you want, but like if you were kind of like a real big on exploring, or you wanted to like try to quote unquote break the game, you could sneak past a way you weren't supposed to be able to go and go fight a slightly harder boss a little bit earlier. But for the most part, it's on rails. But it had this way, especially the first and second gen on the Game Boy, the original, basically the original games engine. It had this way of obfuscating that. You didn't realize how on rails you were. And then starting with 5, or Generation 5, so that's black and white, you really do just get this kind of like hand-holdy kind of mentality, which is funny because black and white is actually kind of difficult from a gameplay standpoint. But as far as like, you're just going to do this thing now, sit tight and fight this battle, fight this boss, go through this area, catch these Pokemon, etc., etc. And it's just getting worse and worse. Like, it's just bland. It's so stale, and there's something special there, and it's still there. And I don't know, man. I don't really know what to do with it. I don't have a lot of suggestions, unfortunately, except to say, go back to basics. And that would be basically any game from the DS and before. And I know I just said black and white was like kind of the beginning of the end to me, but it's still a really fun game, and it has like a classic Pokemon feel to it. And I don't know, maybe I'm just an old man yelling at the clouds, but just go back to a classic Pokemon style, but bring it to the 21st century. And that's fine. Modernize it to a bit. Don't make it an MMO. Don't make it this like huge online multiplayer experience. That's what people always want to do with it. And I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, there's a huge problem I know that they face, and I don't envy them for, is that they have to combat the fact that people have been bringing their Pokemon from Gen 1. And that's a very small percentage of people. But like, how do you get away from the fact that you have over 800 creatures and one of them is somebody's favorite? Everybody's got a favorite. For the most part, it's Charizard or Pikachu.
I mean, would you have to trim it down to do what you're saying?
No, not at all. But but whenever you're going to be bold, or you're going to try and reinvent and do something, because part of the problem is that Pokemon's formula is stale, probably because they don't want to spend more time on it than they have to. Especially if they're trying to bring as many Pokemon over as they can. Of course, for Sword and Shield, they did not do that, and that was a huge backlash. That never really got resolved. But if you're going to be bold and try something new, it's more forgivable if you're going to cut certain Pokemon out. Especially since a lot of them are fish. Like, a huge number of Pokemon are just fish. I don't know what
this game takes place on Mars, where there is no liquid water.
Here's a fish Pokemon. It lives on the land. But I don't know. I love Pokemon. Again, I love this. It's this simple concept. Catch them. The monsters are cute, sometimes cool, sometimes weird, sometimes fierce. The designs are good. The concept is good. It doesn't have to be hard or complicated. I'm okay with like an easy game, or one that doesn't push me that hard. But it should be fun all the way through. I shouldn't be steamrolling through it. And it should inspire. It should inspire the player. It should inspire the people developing it. But I think it's just become what's the word I'm looking for? A victim of its own success at this point. And there's just nothing to be done about it.
Yeah, I really thought coming to the Switch, because I remember when the Switch originally, either right when it came out or when it was announced, the Pokemon company had stated that they're going to continue to make their mainline games on the 3DS. And then I think kind of moving forward from there, it was apparent that Nintendo wasn't going to continue to make handhelds. Like, the Switch is their hybrid solution moving forward. And so then obviously they had to follow suit and come to the Switch. And I think everybody was expecting that Breath of the Wild ness to come to every franchise as it got its first major release on the Switch. So obviously Breath of the Wild is what happened to Zelda. Mario Odyssey, kind of that return to form of 3D platformer. So you kind of got a little taste of it in Odyssey. And I think people wanted that shake up to coincide with it coming to the Switch, I don't know. I part of me wonders if they had originally planned on just continuing on the 3DS. And so what we got to see this iteration was very much what would have been on the 3DS, but they just put it over on the Switch instead. And maybe the next one, they can kind of start to address some of this, and especially breaking it out into Pokemon Let's Go versus kind of mainline, because I feel like over the years, and maybe this is just me, but a big part of why I stopped playing Pokemon is because you could just steamroll. You could get the first Pokemon that you get to pick, the one of the three, and make them the most powerful and use them in every single battle, and a bit of essentially just tap one button and just make it your top attack be your most powerful attack and just go through the whole game like that.
You can do that since the beginning, though. Like, that's not technically, that's an indictment against any JRPG that doesn't have additional gating systems to prevent you from grinding your way to 99 and just steamrolling the game. That's
Sure.
not technically something. Now, the ease of which you can grind, and like there should be gates. There should be like soft caps on like the way that you can go about. Because again, otherwise, where's the challenge? And okay, play however you want, but like, come on,
Right.
Like, and that's clearly not how you wanted to play. You wanted to be forced to strategize, and you just weren't, and so you didn't.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. If they can kind of challenge a little bit with their design on the mainline games, and then still allow the Let's Go to be like the baby form of that. And because I feel like they started to cater more towards the younger audience with the mainline games, but then you get the older people who've been into it since third grade when they were 8 years old in the 90s, like you and me, and I don't think you can service both groups.
No, you can't. And unfortunately, the older people are the smaller group.
Right. But now they kind of have these two franchises that have branched off of Pokemon. They have Let's Go and they have Mainline. So maybe there's something to be done there where they can address some of this.
A lot of people hoped that was the case when they saw Let's Go and they saw how much different it was from a regular Pokemon game, in many ways at least. They were like, oh, okay, this is our hope and confirmation. Not this game, but this game implies the next game won't treat you like you're a sniveling idiot. Because
Right.
I guess that's what it boils down to. It doesn't respect your intelligence. Even as an 8-year-old, it doesn't respect your intelligence. An 8-year-old might enjoy it, not care, but like through either intentional design or the fact that it was just an older game and that's how games were made, the originals are like, they expect you to know how to think critically to at least some degree.
Yes.
And these games don't. And so when you got Let's Go and it's like, oh, you don't even have to fight wild Pokemon anymore? Well, okay, I guess if you want to do like a offshoot, but then you get Sword and Shield and it's not much better. It's still really insipid and like handholdy, and there's no proof yet that the Let's Go is a branching franchise, as much as it was just a stall because they didn't have Sword and Shield ready. But as Pokemon clearly demands, you have to have a game every year like Call of Duty. And so they'd already gone back to the so the 3DS one was Sun and Moon, and then they made Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon the next year, and then the year after that they didn't have anything, so I think they scrambled and pushed out Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and who knows, we might see more from that quote unquote franchise, that like branch series, but we'll see.
It was met with a lot of commercial success, so it would surprise me if they didn't continue that in some way.
Agreed. I liked it for what it's worth. I played it, and it was the first time I was ever able to get, Juliet to play a game for more than 10 seconds. And she loves it. And my friend from work has it, and I can't get it from him because of quarantine, and I feel really bad.
Oh, man, that's a bummer.
Because I got it physically. So don't buy your games physical, kids.
Yeah, don't do that.
The corona's going to get them.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Do you have anything else to say about Pokemon cards?
I don't have anything else to say, Jason. What would you fix with game series franchise?
This is my own personal gripe, and maybe no one else on the planet agrees with me. But if I was going to change a franchise and modify it to fit my own personal preferences of what I think that franchise needs to be reinvigorated, I would say the new Super Mario Bros. Franchise is what I would pick. And specifically, the art style desperately needs updated. It's been 2.5D for 14 years, and it needs to change. And, I could go on about the level design and those sorts of things and how it's kind of boring that you're on this straight path in the overworld and blah, blah, blah. But I won't even touch that. Just the art style needs to be updated. And I'm going to break it down just a little bit here. So Super Mario Bros., the first Super Mario Bros. Came out for the NES in 1985. It had a very distinct art style. Go Google it if you haven't seen it. But if you've played Super Mario Maker, that's a selection as one of the art styles. New Super Mario Bros. 2, that was the same team that developed 1, but it was more of a reskin of a different game that was released in Japan as Doki Doki Panic. So it was a slightly different art style, and that one didn't come out to the US until 1988. So you've got 2 games, you've got 2 art styles, right? Super Mario Bros. 3, also for the NES, came out in 1990. Again, a more refined art style, not as pixely, a little more hand-drawn looking. And I think maybe that was just like they were learning all that they could do to take advantage of the power of the NES, or maybe they had updated cartridges that had more memory. I'm not sure, but that game looked a lot better than the first one. Okay, flash forward to, so that's how many games, Karch? 3 games, 3 art styles. You get the Super Mario World. That's for the Super Nintendo in 1990. Probably my favorite game of all time. Killer art style. I could gush about this all day, but I'm not going to. Just at this point, keep track. 4 games, 4 art styles. Then the Super Nintendo, the N64 came out. That one did not have a 2D platform Mario game. The only mainline Mario game that came to the N64 was, of course, Super Mario 64. So obviously, totally different art style, totally different mechanics, totally different game. But new, inspired, revolutionary, right? And then you go to the GameCube, and they kind of iterate on that N64, that Super Mario 64. This is in 2002, Super Mario Sunshine came out. So you get this like kind of refined 3D platformer look. I don't believe there is a 2D platformer on the GameCube for Mario.
There's not.
Then you finally make it to 2006 for the Nintendo DS, the handheld, and you get new Super Mario Bros. And so this is the first platforming Mario game that of consequence that we've seen in like 16 years. That wasn't just like a remake or a rehash or whatever. And somebody will probably tell me that I'm wrong or whatever, but I Googled it and these are my opinions. But that's where you get the introduction of this 2.5D art style and kind of the overworld design. And what was always so innovative about those early Mario games, especially in the overworld, was how that was part of the game, how you navigated through that overworld impacted like the level design and like the challenge of the levels and the order that you'd play them in, and you could warp between worlds and stuff like that. And like the best that any of these games have ever been able to give me were like, well, you have to find the pink coins and you can use cannons. And it's not the same as like flying backwards in a level, going up off the screen and landing in this secret thing that you didn't even know existed to unlock a secret level that you didn't know existed. That's mind-blowing, and I love that stuff. And basically all I'm saying is change up the art style, and the overworld design would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I have very little history with New Super Mario Bros., and I've owned every system that they've come out on except the Wii U. So it's not that I couldn't get to them. So I think that just speaks to how little I care to play them, simply because of the way they look. I played a little of them, and I actually did play, I think it was New Super Mario Bros. 2, which was the one where you collected all the coins. That was like the gimmick, and that was the dumbest gimmick of all time.
I hated it.
No bearer. It was completely fluff, and it was a bad game. I didn't like that game at all. I played Compare that to 3D Land, which was amazing. I loved
Super and 3D
Mario.
Worlds are a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I haven't played that one, and I hear it's great. And I bring it to Switch, Nintendo. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah. One thing I do want to say that I do like about New Super Mario Bros. Is the co-op aspect of it, where you can have two people playing the level at the same time. That's really cool, and I feel like that should be retained moving forward.
Sounds good.
And so there are some cool features that they've added with these games, and those should absolutely be there moving forward. But leave some of the stuff that's not so fresh behind, and let's innovate.
So tell me, do you not have a similar issue with 3D games? Because sure, the settings are different, and maybe that's enough, I guess, as far as art style is concerned. But Mario's the same. You can get some small tweaks here and there, but Mario is the way he is since Sunshine. 3D Mario looks that way. There's no changing it.
I think I don't necessarily have, and maybe it's just me being a sucker for gimmicks, but Sunshine, you have the backpack, right?
Mm-hmm. But
Galaxy,
huh? We're talking art style. If you're
we're talking art style.
If you're gonna harp on New Super Mario Bros., which you should, it's and the music too. I will also say, not only is the art style bland and uninspiring, the music, that stupid warp warp thing that happens every 2 seconds in almost all the song. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's probably worse than the art style. Anyway.
Here's the thing. I'm willing to forgive a little bit of that because of how different the mechanics and the level design are.
Okay.
Because every single one of those 3D games that you mentioned, unless it's a direct sequel, it's so unique.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sunshine is the one where you have the backpack, and that's kind of the major mechanic there. Then with Galaxy, it's more of the playing with gravity and that sort of thing. And then in Odyssey, it's Cappy, which is, and it's not just Cappy, but the levels and the worlds feel so different.
Yeah, and they incorporate Cappy so well.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I'm willing to forgive some of it just because they take other risks. And so I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
But I mean, that's all. That was a really good question. I almost feel like maybe that should be our breakout segment.
We will have to discuss it because it's a pretty good consideration.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's close this baby out. We got a phone call to make or not?
Yeah. Let me go get a phone. Hold on. I'll edit this part out, but let me go get a phone.
Are we betting though?
No, I don't want to bet, man. I've got a really good thing going with these Final Fantasy things, and if I lose, then I'm gonna have to play that.
Okay.
Do it for me for my birthday.
Wait, if you lose, you're gonna have to play Final Fantasy VII?
No, if I lose, I'm gonna have to play something else.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm back.
All right.
I will say we should guess whether or not he's gonna answer.
Sure. We can keep a running tally. It's good to have in the back of our pockets.
Totally. Do you want to guess?
Who did last time? I think I guessed last time.
Okay, I'll guess this time.
Okay.
I'm going to guess that he is going to answer because we're supposed to be hanging out tonight.
Oh, well, there you go. It's going to be a problem if he doesn't.
Exactly. Okay. Here we go. But I am calling from Lauren's phone, so that's...
Oh, true.
So we'll see. He might be screening his phone calls.
He's not hanging out with her.
Yo, what's up?
He did it. He answered.
I answered.
Woohoo! Well, we're about at the end of the podcast here.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, yep.
Usually you're more interesting than this.
I actually just woke up. You woke me up.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I'll be ready here in a few. Hey, we have to
getting up.
We have to troubleshoot something. Reaper keeps just not recording. After an hour or no, it's actually been 45 minutes both times. It just stops.
It's probably some limit. I don't think there's any real reason for it. We'll see if we can change something up to fix it. It shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, I'll call you back in a few.
All right, man. See you.
Bye. So there you go.
Cool. Greg's not the worst this week. Doubly so because I said Greg's not the worst this week. Doubly so because he answered someone else's call.
Yeah. What's with that?
Maybe that makes him worse because he often ignores your call.
Oh, you know what? No, I think what it is he's off this week, and so he's been on like a normal sleep schedule, and he's like not trying to book it to work or anything like that.
That makes sense.
We usually call him, and he's like, it's 11:56 on the East Coast, so he would have to be starting work in 4 minutes.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So, which I think now his schedule's a little different, so we'll see moving forward how all this shakes out.
Shakety shake.
What are we going to do if he starts answering every week?
We'll need a new game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that'll be boring quick.
He'll have overturned the mantle of worst, and maybe, I don't know, maybe we pick someone else and they're the worst. But
ooh,
I don't know.
You did mention that Hannah has a hard time answering her phone.
She does, but Hannah doesn't have weird hours like he does, and I'm not calling her at midnight.
She'd be like, who died?
Turns out I'm the worst when I'm like, hey, Hannah, wake up.
Hannah is Karch's sister, for anyone who doesn't know.
My younger sister. So she deserves to be teased.
Right, exactly. You had mentioned that you only had a couple of your old stuffed animals that survived. I couldn't help but think back to... We would play this game in Karch's backyard, and his parents' house is like on a lake. And we would play this game where like we would steal Hannah's Beanie Babies and we'd throw them at each other.
We wouldn't steal them. She would play with us.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. That's true. She knew what was going on, but it's not like we really gave her a choice.
That's true too. We were peer pressuring, older brother kind of stuff.
Yeah, we were like, we're playing with these Beanie Babies. You can play with us. Okay, so you throw it at them, right? And so if you catch it, it doesn't explode. But if it hits a body part and bounces off, that's lost. So we would play this in the backyard, and I will never forget when we like tossed one of her most beloved Beanie Babies, and it just sailed over the person it was supposed to hit right into that lake.
Chucked it, just splash.
And she did like the hands on the side of her face from Home Alone, just like blood curdling scream. And I cannot remember if we were able to get it back or not.
Dude, no, it was the middle of the night. We didn't have a way to get into the water, let alone scoop it out.
Oh yeah, because there were legit alligators in that lake.
It's Florida, baby.
So we weren't going to get in there. I mean, they had hauled off. What was the rule? If it got to be more than 14 feet, they'd have to take it away?
I think that's too big, like, to be reasonable. I think it's smaller. I think even...
Maybe it's 7.
6 or 7 feet. They don't kill it. They take it probably to go put it somewhere in an actual swamp. But we have one in our... there's a pond. Teeny tiny thing. And there's a new resident there. I hadn't seen one in a really long time because they did a lot of work, development stuff, roads and buildings and stuff. And for a long time... Or they had finally gotten rid of most of their habitat in this area. But I finally found one. And I was like, oh, hey, named him Angus. That's what we call him when we drive by and we see him. But he's getting long. He's not very big. He's not girthy, but he's getting really long from snout to tail.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I remember.
Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, I remember there was that one that would sunbathe right there, honestly, probably 20 feet from the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. Where we would walk by there to go to school every day.
That was where Walmart, it put the Walmart, basically. It didn't used to be there. It was shortly there before you left, but...
Oh, I was thinking on the other side, before you crossed the street. Like, if you were walking from...
No. I know what you're talking about. Yes, that, kind of thin stretch of water.
Yep.
Yeah. No, there was huge ones over there. There were so many. There was just so many, all the time. And they ate the Beanie Babies. That's what happened. It's so funny.
Sorry, Hannah.
Because that had happened on the third or fourth time we had played that game in earnest. Such a fun game, by the way. And I can't believe it didn't happen sooner. And you remember
we had better aim. That was the time we played with Hannah and her friend, and
yeah,
I don't remember who threw it out. I don't think it was me.
It was probably me.
I think it was you.
Me.
I wasn't going to throw you under the bus like that, but
no, I think it was me. And it's so funny. You remember that moment more vividly than I do. I remember it, obviously. I remember the event, but that's it. I don't remember the hands on the face. I don't remember the blood-curdling scream.
Oh, man. I think, I want to say in my head, I'm thinking Miss Kitty or something like that. I don't...
Miss Kitty? Oh, no. It was Miss Kitty.
Yeah.
Oh, we're the worst. Sorry, Greg. It's us, man. We're the worst. We both lose. We'll have to cut this out and send it to her because she'll never listen to it if I don't just like put it in front of her.
Okay, do it.
Yeah, that'll be funny. All right. Well, this was fun.
Yeah. Hey, Karch.
What?
What time is it?
It's 12:01 Eastern Time, and Jason Wright was born this day 31 years ago in St. Petersburg, Florida. And so it technically counts, even though it's 11:01 where he is.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Jason.
Thank you.
Did you get your present?
I did. I have it right here.
Open it up, baby. Let's see it.
Okay.
I wish I could see you open it.
You will see me. This will be on the YouTube video.
I meant, live reactions and stuff.
Okay, well, you'll hear my live reaction.
I am.
Okay.
It's not. Jason got me, while he's opening it, Jason got me a microphone as a passive-aggressive but really generous gift to get a better sound on the podcast.
It was really a gift for me. Okay, I'm going to open it. Oh, yeah, baby.
Oh,
this is honestly, I don't know if the camera can see it.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I was hoping it was.
Oh, that's great.
Dude, I'm so stoked.
Sweet. I gotta buy myself one. Why didn't I make myself one? I'm so dumb.
Why didn't you buy yourself one?
Because I'm so dumb.
I love it, man. Thank you.
For anybody who's not watching, I made a really crappy, and I'm sure it'll go in the Hall of Fame of terrible designs, but I made us a t-shirt with our logo and stuff on it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm going to wear this tomorrow.
Super. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Now you can wear that every time you record, even if it's dirty or clean, and you don't have to explain yourself.
That's genius.
I
love it. Yeah, I'll definitely wear it for our next episode for the YouTube.
Sounds good.
Cool. Well, all right, everybody. That was a fun-filled, way longer than I thought it would be episode, but I think I'm to the point where I'm like, these are just going to be as long as they need to be because we have a lot to say, and you use the time codes if you don't want to hear it all. So,
sounds good.
Although I didn't put time codes on the last one because I got lazy.
Oops.
I did it very intentionally. I apologize. But anyway, that's all we have for this week. You guys find us over at neverfreetoplay.com or patreon.com/neverfreetoplay. Find us on Twitter where we are neverfreetoplay. Hope you guys have a fantastic week. We will try, but we are never free to play.